Prosperity Homestead is a special place. In today's episode, we're going to talk specifically about why this newsletter exists, who benefits from this newsletter, and how you can use these insights to grow your small farm, homestead, or estate. Hi, I'm Justin Hitt with Prosperity Homestead. I'm a permaculture design consultant. I've trained under Jeff Lawton. I've also trained under Bill Mollison through his materials and a number of other copywriters over the last 10 or so years. I've studied organic gardening, permaculture, ecology, all those concepts that really make living more healthy and enjoyable. I've put together this newsletter, Prosperity Homestead, specifically describe lifestyle-related investments that you can make to create a wealth of nature in your own home. How can you manage your home more efficiently? How can you produce for yourself better and higher quality food? And ways you can invest in your health. And I did this for a couple reasons. First off, as a consultant and as an IT professional, I was working around the clock. My lifestyle sucked. Age 22, I had a TIA stroke. I had this because I was dehydrated. I'd been working for several days straight, and I was up at all hours, and it just was a bad situation. In my 30s, I gave myself a sleep disorder by staying up around the clock. All this time, I actually enjoyed gardening, and I enjoyed nature, and I enjoyed going to arborariums and going and visiting farms and such as that. I enjoyed local food. Actually, I was a vegan for 4 years, and I really found the health benefits of quality food. But overall, something wasn't right. And I don't know about you, but a lot of high-income professionals or people who work in offices, they are disconnected with nature. And they drive 45 minutes to an office space. They sit in an office under fake and fluorescent lights for a couple hours, and then they drive back home, and by then it's dark, and then they go to sleep. And I decided I really didn't want that life. As a consultant, I'd always worked out of the house. I had a home office. When I did have a remote office, I wasn't there very often. I found it tended to disrupt the employees or my assistant or my staff. When I was out selling, I was actually on the road all the time. So I wanted to establish for myself some place where I could not only live, but I could work in enjoyment. I could be surrounded by an environment where I can simply just walk outside and get a fresh salad for lunch. You know, have you ever been to the grocery store and you get one of these so-called fresh salads and it just doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't have that flavor and sometimes that punch of good quality fresh vegetables? Well, I don't worry about that anymore. I can go outside and have that here. Now, there have been times where I've had a bigger garden, or there have been times where I've had a better garden. I'm not completely off of the grocery store, but we do eat about 60% of the vegetables from our own garden outside of our doorstep during the season. I have a goal in the coming year to get that all the way up to 100% year round. And we're doing that in partnership with another farm. And I share that on the podcast. But there are a lot of professional families who own their own home or they rent a home, and they would really just love to have that home more connected with nature. They want to manage their land. We have a number of farmers who are a part of our newsletter subscription, and some of them are gentleman farmers. They don't actually go out and farm. They have the estate or the large land holding, and they lease it to farmers. But they want to make sure that those farmers are using ecologically sound methods. They're using ways that regenerate the land. They want to have that investment in the people and that people investing in the land so that everybody has more of a beneficial ecology. Many of the homeowners that are on the list have a little small garden outside, but they participate in the farmers market or they participate in a CSA. And others, they have that dream about that hobby farm. That hobby farm that's maybe a bed and breakfast, or the hobby farm that's country club style, where you just go out on the estate and you walk the field, and you might have horses, you might have cattle for a tax deduction, but ultimately it's a business operation, not just a nice place to live. And that's the gist of Prosperity Homestead. There are several forms of capital. I won't go into them right now. We talk about those in other podcasts. But there are several forms of capital that are not monetary in nature. And having a safe residence that increases in value, that has appreciation. That's a form of capital. Having equity in your community, not equality necessarily, but equity in the sense of you've invested in the community's invested in you. Actually, you tend to get equality when people invest in each other. But community, there are various capital sources that build the prosperity that helps people take care of themselves. They help people take care of their families. There's the health perspective of your own small farm, homestead, or estate. There's the beauty or the heritage of taking the family farm and keeping it in the family, and building the wealth that is good quality land that improves itself over the years. The wealth, the monetary wealth of having an estate or a property that's paid for. All these things and more we cover in Prosperity Homestead. We cover it again for high-income professionals, landowners, business owners, individuals who want to build out a legacy. Farming, by the way, is a tax deduction for many. I don't think some of these folks take it as serious. You shouldn't be losing money on a farm just to get the tax deduction. Unless you're doing it through community programs. You might invest in a farm, a nonprofit farm, in order to take the tax deduction, while not actually getting the amount of money you put out. You're not getting it back. You're actually helping other people through those investments. Those are community development types of investments. We talk about a lot of stuff in Prosperity Homestead. We're not just an agricultural publication. There are a lot of agricultural publications. We're more about that prosperity, that investing small inputs and receiving large outputs from the land without depleting it. So it's that low input, better than organic garden that produces vegetables to for your family using heritage and organic seed that can be saved and recycled. We dehydrated hot peppers last season, and I gleaned a local farm field. I gleaned it for peppers. I gave the owner of the property peppers, a couple, I think 2 or 3 bushels. I took 2 bushels. I cut up and dehydrated the majority of the bushels. I fermented some, I froze some, and we've got peppers for the next season. In fact, I have flaked hot peppers for more than I will be able to eat in my lifetime, probably 3 or 4 quarts of that stuff. But my point being is nothing was wasted. There was a low input. It was beneficial to the community. It was valuable to my family in providing healthy food. We have fermented, wonderful hot sauce that we enjoy, that we made it ourselves. We had family experiences in that. It creates value in the community because there's opportunities for trade. I traded some of the dried peppers for other vegetables as the season went on. But my point really is that Prosperity Homestead is that unique place to go where you build your family in a sustainable way, in an ecologically sound way, and in a way that builds up just that growth, that responsibility, that understanding. Like, do you really know where your food comes from? I know where my food comes from. I've met some of the animals that have blessed my plate. I've planted the vegetables that have fed my family. And it just feels different. It feels better. It feels, I don't know if you understand what I'm saying here, but when you've done it yourself and you know that no matter what happens with the weather, no matter what happens in the political situation, no matter what happens with the economy, you know you'll be able to feed yourself. We do talk a little bit about preparation, especially storm preparation. That feeling is something that cannot be purchased. That is a level of prosperity that often translates into wealth over time. But it's that understanding the inputs and the outputs. It's understanding that these are viable seed, and that if we plant them right and steward them correctly, that they're going to give us bounty both in harvest and in seed to replace themselves. I could go on a while about this. The podcast has got a number of episodes. We've got a website at www.prosperityhomestead.org. I do want to let you know, though, if you have any questions about your homestead, small farmer estate. I've answered questions about home management, hiring staff. I've answered questions about capital investments for rental properties. A lot of prosperous homesteads, the owners don't even live there. They live in another location because they still have a full-time job. They haven't yet retired into their farm or agricultural dreams, and they're renting out several properties, which they plan to sell as they retire. And so I answered some questions about investment properties. We also talk about buying land. I just did a project for a couple who's looking at farms, and I went through and assessed the number of farms for them and talked about the opportunities, the erosion challenges, things you need to look for in this kind of land project. And we also just finished a big program on land projects, speaking of that. So one of the two of the properties I own needed some major investments. They needed sewer line replacement. They had trees that were falling over, and they really needed a lot of ecological work, such as addressing erosion, failure of a retaining wall. So again, if you have any questions about things that would make your small farm, homestead, or estate more enjoyable, increase in property value, more ecologically sound, easier to manage, if you have any questions about any of that, visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org. If you write me or you fax me, don't call, don't send an email. Well, I guess you could send an email if you can figure out the email address. But my point being is if you write down your big challenge, how whether it's been easy or difficult to answer the questions or the challenges that you have, and then kind of what life would be like if you had those questions answered, and you send that to me, I will, no charge, reply to your letter with details and sincerely wanting to help you get to where you want to be when it comes to your home. Are you driving a long commute and you'd really love to be at home with your family, spend more time with your kids, have the opportunity to grow some food and enjoy homegrown food, partnering in your community to get quality better than organic food? Well, again, that's what we're going to help you do here at Prosperity Homestead. I'm Justin Hitt, again, a permaculture design consultant. I've worked at various farm projects. I've managed houses. I used to house sit. There's a lot of things that I can help you with, and I really do want to answer your questions. So thanks for listening to the podcast. Please like and subscribe if that's an option. But most importantly is don't let any of your questions go unanswered. Visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org, where we help small farms, homesteads, and estates. We help the owners of those types of properties get more from their land in an ecologically sound way. Thanks for listening.